I've got one of my other buddies coming out here who's a lefty, but we're actually not going to show him on video because we know that YouTube has some strict policies against showing that, and I'm trying not to get demonetized. So, hey, can't let you get close.
I can't let you get close.
Okay, I got 2 more rounds of this. Fuck, it is hot. Oh, my eyeballs.
Skillet.
God damn it. You saying skill issue. Yeah. 448? Dude. Stupid. .384. Okay. 0 alphas. Let's go.
Shoot, it wasn't recording.
What?
Just kidding.
I can't even find the dot. So this video is going to be designed for people that have the tism, as in astigmatism. You're so stupid. And I have a pretty bad astigmatism, so having a dot that doesn't look like they're having a seizure is, you know, ideal for me. I like my dots to look like dots. So on that quest, I have 3 large windowed competition optics here that I would like to take a look at and kind of compare the exterior of them, the glass quality, clarity, blue tint, the reticle itself, the battery life, and then finally, you know, we'll take a look at the price and then kind of try to quantify all of this and put it together and create a score and see like which dot stacks up to the others and which one I think is the best to buy multiples of. So let's get into it. For the exterior on these sights, the SRO is an RMR footprint, Vortex Defender is Delta Point Pro footprint, and then the Romeo 3 Max is its own weird, massive footprint. So I have to have a plate, you know, on here to mount this thing. The 5 categories that I'm looking at for these sights concerning the exterior is the aluminum, the buttons, the water resistance, the bezel, and then window size. So first off, looking at the aluminum. So the SRO is the clear winner here because it uses the 7075 aluminum, whereas the other 2 sights are using 6061. And so the main difference between 6061 and 7075 is more cost, more durability versus 6061, less cost, less durability. And then moving on to the button. The Trijicon buttons, I was gonna say that they win, but in my opinion, they are on par with the Vortex Defender XL, or maybe I should say the Vortex Defender XL is on par with the Trijicon, because the Trijicon has, you know, the large plus button on one side and then the minus button on the other side, and so that's really nice, having that one positive click. But I think the Defender is a little more clicky than the Trijicon, but these sights these buttons are still exceptionally nice. And then the Romeo 3 Max is for sure in last place here because it has just both buttons on one side and they just feel not like a duty sight. And obviously these are not duty sights, but this button is essentially the same button that's on the RMR. And you know, it definitely looks and feels durable. And then the Vortex Defender also as well feels very similar in strength to the SRO's buttons. So these are both great. Moving on. So water and impact resistance rating. So the only site that has that I could find a water resistance rating for was the IPX7 found on the Romeo 3 Max. And IPX7 just means that it can get wet, basically. I mean, you can submerge the site underwater 1 meter for 30 minutes, so it's not. It's more, I think, more like water resistant than waterproof. The anecdotal side of this is I've shot all of these sights for several hundred rounds in the rain, and not had any issues with. So I don't see any need to knock any of the sights necessarily on that regard. And then the bezel thickness. Okay, so Romeo 3 Max has the narrowest bezels at 2 millimeters. And you can see that's 2 millimeters. And then I just turned on the flashlight. The SRO has the next narrowest at 2.6 millimeters. And then the Defender has the largest at, it was 3.5 in the narrowest point of the sight, which is like on the side, and then the top is like the narrowest. And then on these corners, it's almost like 6.5. So the Defender for sure has the largest bezels. So if you look through a sight and you're like, the bezel doesn't bother you, great. Then the Defender is, an easily amazing sight. But if you're like me, whenever I have a really thick bezel, I'm trying to target focus, right? And then I put up this big hunk of metal in front of my face. It's very jarring. So having this much thinner bezel transition up in front of you is much less disturbing and helps me focus on the target instead of shifting my focus back to the sight. So I like that feature of the Romeo 3 Max. And then lastly, the window. The Romeo 3 Max has the largest window. The SRO is basically tied with the Vortex. And the Romeo 3 Max is not significantly larger, but it is a little bit bigger. It's almost 30 millimeters wide lengthwise, and then 24 height-wise. And then the Vortex is about like 25 and a half. It's a square, 25 and a half each way. And then the SRO is about 26 length, 26.2, and then 24 height. So the Romeo 3 Max just edges them out just a little bit on the window size. The SRO has the most fisheye, and then the Romeo 3 Max has the least fisheye, with the Defender being kind of somewhere in between. And then blue tint, on the other hand, though, I think the SRO and the Defender are pretty similar in the level of blue tint that they have. It's not much. The SRO has more blue tint at the top, and then kind of like less. It's kind of like a gradient, I guess, it seems to me. And then the Defender XL seems a little more, maybe there's a little gradient there, but it definitely seems to be a more just kind of light blue tint. The Romeo 3 Max has the most blue tint, and this kind of segues into my next category, which is the reticle. Having the most blue tint maybe helps it present a better dot for astigmatism, which I have a decently severe astigmatism. Red dot on the Romeo 3 Max almost, to my eyes, looks as if it's just a dot, and there's minimal starbursting. So I'm definitely going to score the Romeo 3 Max the best there, and then the Defender is a little behind, then the SROs and the lowest there. With that said, another thing to consider is I have the 6 MOA version of the Romeo 3 Max, the 8 MOA of the Vortex Defender, and the 5 MOA of the SRO. So I think the Defender comes in an 8 MOA and a 3 MOA, and I am about 100% positive that I would say
that was close.
The SRO has a better dot than the 3 MOA if I were looking at the 3 MOA Vortex Defender.
I think that's like
the 5 MOA versus a 3 MOA Defender. 5 MOA SRO versus 3 MOA Defender. Pretty sure that y'all caught that the first time. But anyways. Okay, so then moving on, battery life. Right off the bat, all three of these sites have some kind of battery
that was actually a pretty good
auto shut off. SIG's is called MOTAC. Vortex, I don't know what it's called. It has it. They all turn off after a little while to help prolong battery life. Battery life. The battery life on all of these, I think, is going to be pretty similar. I'm not going to really go into it too much. The SRO, they all use 2032s. And then the SRO's battery is top loading. The Romeo 3 Max is a side loading battery. You just have to undo these two hex screws right there. And then the Vortex Defender is, what is it? It has like a little screw that you gotta unscrew here. Once you remove that screw, then it frees up the ability to push this little tab outwards, and then it pops out the battery. They're all relatively easy to change. I'm just gonna knock the Romeo 3 Max a little bit because that one does all these have long battery life, but the Romeo 3 Max is the only one that's died on me so far. The EOTechs have terrible battery life, but everyone kind of knows it. But that's what would get a poor battery life score for me. Everything else is like, it lasts for a long time, whatever. Just change it every couple months and you'll be good. And then lastly, on this equation here, to kind of score these is the price. Okay, what's the absolute cheapest site that you can get? That would be what your 10 out of 10 price score is. And then what's the most expensive site that you can get? That is what your 1 out of 10 points is. So I think a Trijicon RCR is probably the most expensive site that you can buy. And at least I've looked at it, I feel like a lot of sites, and that seems to be the most expensive, and that's around $800. So that gets a 1 out of 10. And then the SIG's like plastic site, Romeo SRO is like $100. So that's like the minimum. That gets you 10 out of 10. So, you know, the Vortex Defender is around $350, and then the Romeo 3 Max, those are around, you know, $600. 650, 600, and then the SRO is around $500. So I have kind of put this together in a little Excel file and come up with this little scoring metric to kind of get the true price score based on that, with 10 points being $100, 1 point being $800, and then however each of these slot into that. And then, okay, so so that's it for the scoring system there. And then, you know, kind of showing the sites side by side. You know, in my opinion, it really depends on what you're looking for. I mean, honestly, all of these are great sites. If you're wanting to just get the best site that money can buy, in my opinion, the Romeo 3 Max is the one to get. But if you're wanting to get a site that is just as close to a circle as can be, then get an SRO. Because to me, the great selling point of the SRO is not anything that I've really talked about. It's more of the shape of the optic itself. And so if you want to get if you want something that's as close to a true circle as possible, because that's like, that picks up when you're, that's the easiest to track, you know, as you move laterally and whatnot, and then tracking the recoil vertically, then get an SRO. And then if you're really just trying to get something that's close to the performance dot-wise, then get a Vortex Defender. And if someone was saying, hey, I'm just now getting into red dots, I need to get 3 sites, what should I get? It's like, yeah, I'm not gonna tell you to go buy one Romeo 3 Max. I'm gonna tell you, go get 2 or 3 of the Vortex Defenders. I mean, for sure. Just because you're getting almost all the performance, I think, out of this Vortex Defender as you are out of the SRO and the Romeo 3 Max. And then on top of that, I think the Defender is the clear winner of this category. It's so cheap and it's providing so many of these benefits. And if you're looking at something to just go like spam buy, I think the Defender is, you know, just amazing for what it is. And you know, it has like the little polymer shock absorber thing. I mean, it seems to be very durable. You know, if you're wanting to use this for, you know, more rugged purposes, and if you're ever trying to carry it, I mean, this is kind of a big sight to carry. But, you know, if you're wanting to get the slightly smaller Defender, you know, whatever, the ST or the CCW or whatever, you know, these seem to be very rugged sights and, you know, pretty well built. Whereas the Romeo 3 Max, it's like I don't know if I would, you know, I mean, calling this a good, reliable home defense sight is honestly a stretch, just because it's so thin. I mean, the bezel on this is, you know, razor thin, which is great for performance and for competition, which is what it was designed for. All right, thanks guys, thanks for watching. You know, I hope you all enjoyed it, and you know, if you did, and you want to see other content, you know, give me a like and a subscribe, and let me know what other sites y'all would want to see me kind of compare these to, or if you have another site that you want to see head to head against something, you know, let me know, and I'll make a video for it. Thanks guys.